My name is Nir Gartzman. I'm the co-founder of the Doc Innovation Hub, together with Hanan Karveli, my partner. On a personal level, I am an ex-chief engineer in the Israeli Navy. I was chief engineer of Israeli Navy frigate 15 years ago, followed by a couple of years as superintendent in the commercial cargo sector. I even spent 1 year in Shanghai, China, in 2008 as a project manager for a cargo vessel conversion. A decade ago, I moved ashore to the vibrant high-tech sector in Israel, to a company called Better Place by Shai Agassi, one of the first companies that was dealing with electric vehicles. Even before Tesla, it was a big hype, too early back then. But I can say from my personal perspective, it fulfilled my passion to go to places that take humanity and the global transportation landscape a few steps forward. And by decarbonize the mobility sector as a vision, it was something great for me. And on a personal level, from the first day on the high-tech sector ashore, I had the dream to take the innovation, the technology that I met there, back to the more traditional maritime sector that I know from before. Thanks to my meeting with my partner, Hanan Karveli, who shared the same background with career in the high-tech and background in the maritime sector and ex-deck officer in the Israeli Navy as well. We understand that we share the same passion to combine these two worlds, the high-tech sector and the entrepreneurship, together with the needs in the maritime sector. Both our personal passions, and we try to do some research if this is the right timing globally, I'm talking about 2017, to start to do something around innovation and digital platform to address the maritime sector that was left behind after the fintech sector or the automotive sector that embrace more digital technologies in the last decade. The answer to the questions that we raised was hell yes. And we started the doc bringing together investors that convince in our vision, corporate partners, naming global corporations from the sector that believe that now is the time to adopt digital technologies, and entrepreneurs that was ready to face the challenges of our global partners. I will pause here because we will talk maybe about the doc later on for any additional question that might arise from the audience or from you, Corey.
Fantastic. Maybe you can speak to the landscape of the maritime innovation sector right now, maybe pre-COVID-19, because obviously some things may have changed, but up until the outbreak, what was the landscape like in the maritime innovation sector?
Okay, I will just mention, for the sake of honesty and to be modest, that we are at the dock pretty exposed to many corporates worldwide. I'm talking about the biggest shipping companies out there, port operators, freight forwarders, etc., that share with us the challenges. And also some of them put the trust in us that we will find for them the right technologies, mainly in the geographical patch of Israel and Europe, but also elsewhere. And to be in the intersection between entrepreneurs that knock on our door and ask for funding for their startups and the corporates that share with us their challenges, we find ourselves in an intersection that brings us pretty neutral overview on what is happening between the demand side from the market and the supply side, meaning the present technologies that out there that can solve those challenges. I can say that on the most border level, what I can say is that pre-COVID-19, there was already rapid progress and rapid movement from the traditional players to start and open their own digital divisions, nominating the chief digital officers, senior executives that report directly to the management or the board. They're dealing with how the business will look like in the future, how we will serve the digital natives of the next generations, and how we bring more transparency to an industry that asked by the customers of the industry, meaning the Tata Group of the world, the Zara, the IKEA, the General Motors of the world, to be frictionless. So this all serve as catalyst for companies to go on a race to adopt more new technologies. And the good decade of economic growth, meaning the last decade, was allowed some of them even to invest large amounts of money in the future, meaning in new technologies, new platforms, new hardware. I believe that the current COVID era is put much more stress on the economy to less focus on big capital investment for the far future and much more on platform that can bring operational efficiency and reduce cost today. I think this is the biggest change between the pre-COVID to the post-COVID from what we experience. Everything that involves big capital investment, big hardware and infrastructure change, PD went on hold, including big stakes of venture investment. And now the focus is more about digital platform and any technologies that can deliver on the spot reduction in cost and in operational efficiency.
Fantastic. And then some of the other kind of media when you spoke about paradigm shifts in the shipping industry. Can you discuss some of these with relation to ports and ships, and then with reference to service providers?
So I want to take it to a broader level. When you're talking about partnership and collaboration between different service providers, I think that we should always remember that for the customers of the industry, this is a one-stop shop. Factory buying goods from different contractors and doing the final assembly and export it elsewhere. They want to make sure that the import and export is streamlined and frictionless. They don't care about the silos of port operation, shipping companies, transshipment, custom clearance, and everything in the middle. This is something that they experience as customers. And if only within those silos, meaning the service provider dealing with the freight forwarding or the port operator, we will digitalize and be more transparent within its business. But without collaborate with partnership with other service providers, so we end up with experience and service that will not be good enough for the customers of the industry. So I think that as an industry, we have to aspire for partnership and to adopt technologies and standardization, whether it will be in custom clearance reporting or in container tracking applications. And there is such like the Container Digitalization Association that now emerged with few of the large carriers around the world that will allow different competitors to collaborate for the benefit of the entire industries. And the good news that we see more and more of those in the last couple of years. There is still a lot of steps to go in order to fulfill it. But we see much more visionary executives in the industry that are ready to go this path. And the question now, I think, it's less of the readiness of the industry, because the readiness is here, and more of the ability of startups, and not only startups, only also legacy service providers and IT vendors to deliver this platform that will be stable and reliable enough for the global ecosystem.
Terrific. Yeah, and then speaking of that, forward-thinking executives, another topic that you like to talk about is the goal of transparency and sustainability in the shipping industry. What strides are being made towards this future, and do you think sustainability will come through some form of disruption? Because when we talk about just cost saving, a lot of the time sustainability is put to the back of the queue. So do you foresee being some innovative, emergence that leads to more sustainability?
First of all, I think that we have to be more sustainable, a citizen of the world in any industry. The maritime sector, when we talk about so complex supply chain and intermodality and the ability to enforce it is very hard, because it's not one country or the OECD or the G8 that will enforce something. Every transported good or final assemblies involve many countries, many continents. So it has to be something that will be adopted by the UN, by the International Maritime Organization from the regulatory side. And in parallel, it's something that has to be delivered by the companies. And we see now companies that offer their customers sometimes not the most cheap shipment, but the most sustainable shipment. And some of them take it. And also maybe in some areas when the time is not so stressed, and they can allow more slow steaming or more just-in-time supply chain by digitalization and transparency of the supply chain, being a lot more being more sustainable. To be completely honest, I think that without promising business model of those sustainability visions, this will not be a big change in the industry. Meaning, we look for the entrepreneurs in the audience and among the participants of this webinar as well, to think how they can initiate a platform and business idea that will allow more sustainable and more green technologies to be adopted within the industry. It could be from basic hardware and infrastructure technologies, and also a collaborative platform that will allow many frictionless trade of electricity, for example, that will allow ports to install a shore connection for the vessels in more business and better ROI. Meaning, if you have a huge city, when they go for electrification of the buses and the trains and the cars within the city, and the port in the middle of the cities continue to be very polluted because the ships don't have the shore connection, so we didn't do anything good for the well-being of those citizens in those cities. So we have to make sure that we have also the collaboration outside of the industry with other partners, meaning the city, the utility providers of electricity, to make sure that we can do it affordable for the port operators and port authorities, for example.
Absolutely. And I might just switch gears a little bit and ask you to talk a bit about the Startup Accelerator program that you co-founded. So maybe you could speak a bit to that.
Okay. So first of all, what we focus when we're talking about acceleration is the phase of the go-to-market acceleration. Because when we talk about how to initiate a company, how to present the idea, there is many more in Israel or in any innovation hub around the world. could be in India, in the Silicon Valley, in London. But we focus to take those talented entrepreneurs that know how to initiate company, how to present their idea, how to integrate technologies, and help them meet the market that talking in different language. Our corporate partners is talking in the language of business challenges, and mostly the startup that come from a strong technology background, talking technology language and approach, and to bridge those gaps, to make sure that the technology people and the entrepreneurs, that some of them come from outside of the industry, understand and know how to deliver and to solve the business challenges, and both of the business challenges know to ask the right question and to make sure that those entrepreneurs can deliver. This is a big undertake that we are happy to take. And in each and every day, we bring those two ends closer by making them speak together, inquire, make sure that nothing will be lost in translation. And what we do mainly in every company that we admit to our program is to make sure that they have champions within the corporate partners, within the organization, that we are bringing them together, to make sure that the yes and the enthusiasm from the senior executives in the corporate will go down to the field level. That in the end, they are the ones that should adapt and work daily with those new technologies. And this isn't always hard, because nobody likes change. Nobody likes to learn new technologies and to hear that someone else maybe, or some new platform can do his work better or more efficient. So this is a challenge. And this is something that we have to do together with the industry, and not try to replace industry players in order to deliver it to the customers.
Great, yeah, that actually leads me to one of the questions I was going to ask. What is uniquely challenging about the maritime industry with regards to technology and innovation?
So first of all, we have to understand that every industry, this is not only the maritime industry, that is globalized and built on a network of collaborators and service providers, are very hard to change without bringing different partners to the same table. It's not enough to approach one company. No single port or single shipping company will see a better efficiency or better operational metrics if they will adopt startup or new technology, if this will not be open as a platform with the APIs to the TOS of the port, to the importers, exporters, the IT solutions, and to the communications platform on board the vessel. And from the startup point of view, to build and to connect the dots between more than one industry partner, it's very hard. And if you're looking on a fintech solution, so there is money move all the time and in a large amount, and you can have great business from address one bank within your country. Or if you're talking about consumer and retail, there is huge numbers within a specific economy internally. But when you're talking about shipping industry, you by definition talking globally. You're talking globally, you're talking big players, and you're talking collaboration between different partners and service providers. So this is a very big undertake from the startup point of view. And I think that it's demand from the startup of very wide approach. This is the first. And second, from the industry collaborators and from the corporates that initiate now their their new digital division or the strategy division, to understand that their job is not only to seek the specific technologies, but also to understand that they need to take it in and to integrate and to be the facilitator of these complex interactions between many startups, sometimes many new technologies, and many players. And I think this is needless to say that we love tough areas of business, because this means that once you succeed, it's very hard to duplicate or replicate what you're doing. So this is both good news and also bad news. And we try day in, day out to overcome those complexities.
Cool. And then maybe when you speak to the unique challenges, what are some unique opportunities that only exist in the maritime sector?
So first of all, I think that this specific point of time of the COVID that plays a digitalization catalyst for all of us, even for this Zoom and webinar in replace of face-to-face conference, etc. If we absorb the new technologies fast enough and deliver it to the customers, we have now this unique point of time that not only the newcomers and the younger generation that are digital native by definition are ready to adopt those solutions, but once you have this ready and operational and in production in your organization, this is the time to say to the entire organization, even to the ones that have 3 decades of experience on the older platform, listen, this is where things are happening. This is how you can eliminate and continue to work your business without traveling, without meeting face-to-face, to keeping all the restrictions. And something that, and some platform that was nice to have, and nice add-ons to the business before, now it's become a necessity, not only for the shipment transaction, but also for the robots in the warehouse, that in order to maintain them and to make sure that your technician know how to rectify the malfunctions, it's very hard to convince someone to jump on a plane and to become the service engineer. So you have to adopt also AR and VR technologies and remote assistant technologies to keep this running. So everybody is adopting it, even if the service engineer is 65 years old. Now we have to make sure that he can deliver his expertise to the field without jumping on a plane. And this is a unique opportunity in time for all the involved parties, both the suppliers of the technologies and both of the corporates that are ready to adopt it rapidly, to end this era, to go out stronger from this crisis, from this global economic crisis that we probably will face in the next couple of years. A lot better and like a leapfrog with all the digital platforms that are out there.
Cool. And then just going back to the doc, the startup hub you've co-founded, how are the organizations selected for, how is the criteria met to be considered for this? Okay.
We start from a basic due diligence about the founders, about the technology, if they can deliver, if this is valid, about the global competitive landscape, what is out there. The secret sauce in our funnel of screening the startups, and when I'm meaning screening the startups, I'm meaning from a funnel that we met in person almost 300 startups in the last 2 years. And we end up investing and working and have equity stakeholders in 10 portfolio startups. So this is a very wide funnel that end up in the diamond, like the needle of the haystack, to make sure that we pick the most promising one. And the secret sauce in this process is the gate when we find out who is the most talented entrepreneurs with the most innovative technologies. And now we face them with the market, with the key decision makers in our corporate partners, and ask them if this is working, if you want to adopt it. And once we see the spark in the eyes of the corporates that tell us, listen, if this is working, we need to adopt it. We want it. This is something that truly helps us. This is something a lot better than what we do internally. This is something that we want to jump on and collaborate with our service provider in order to streamline the business. Only when we hear this enthusiasm from the corporates, this is the part when we go deeper into actual investing, venture funding into those companies. Of course, there is also the financial metrics that play a significant role to make sure that the addressable market is big enough, that we understand how much capital we'll need to invest into the company in order to go to scalability. So this is why we are much more keen to adopt and to invest in digital platform, in light hardware and software and SaaS application that come as a digital layer on top of all the new hardware technologies and the communication infrastructure that now rapidly installed all over the industry. And last, once we select those companies and we invest, it's like marriage. We are here for the long term. We are equity stakeholders in those companies in order to enjoy together with the founders in dividends in the far future, in the 3, 5, 7 years from now, for successful IPOs, M&As. And in this respect, that keep us not intermediaries that cutting some percentage from opportunistic sale, but equity stakeholders that entering to the same bet, to the same waters, together with the founders, make it very convenient and with our personal integrity of the long-term vision, and also make us easier to make sure that the best founders out there is approaching to us because they know that we are there together with them for the long term.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. So then maybe we can speak to the elephant in the room of how COVID-19 has affected this kind of area and innovation in the maritime industry in general.
So great question, and let me seize this opportunity to leverage the fact that we just hosted from the doc 4 webinars that touch specifically in this one. All of you can listen to it in the doc YouTube channel, in the doc innovation YouTube channel. Dealing with the specific areas where the crisis is actually placed digitalization catalyst, like Wave BL, the dealing with digital bill of lading, or AI Doc, the dealing with streamlined custom clearance process that help the same custom clerks and the same classification professionals to do the same job. It's not instead of the people, it's together with the people, together with the workers, to streamline the same businesses digital without coming to the offices, stand in lines with the custom desk, or take in hand the bill of lading and getting the physical steps. Having said that, I have to admit that there is an elephant in the room, and the entire consumer landscape in the world has become much smaller. Many companies has reduced production. It doesn't matter if this is the automotive industry, the electronic industry. Many of the raw materials that can support production become absent in many industries. So the overall market is becoming much more become much smaller. You have to take into consideration that the competition will be harder because there is less money involved out there, and any startup out there need to make sure that not to think on the cash flow of the next 6 months, but on the next 24 months, and have a structured plan how to understand that nobody knows what will be the landscape in the next 12 or even 24 months. No one knows what will be the rate of back to normal or the U-shape or V-shape of the global economy. So we have to keep ourselves lean, without big investment, without huge debt, and to make sure that we can stay afloat in the next 24 months, I believe. And this is a very big challenge for startups that ready sometimes to a fast and agile fundraising cycles, and sometimes have a lot of capital that invest into R&D with maybe pro-revenue stage of 2 or 3 years that was completely logical just a few months ago. And today it's something that you cannot expect from your capital providers and fundraiser to accept. So this is a big challenge. From our point, we try to support our startups to make sure that what already working, what the product that already can deliver, to replicate it to more and more partners and more to more players globally, and less focusing on the big development that demand capital-intensive investments.
Great. And do you see the outbreak kind of slowing innovation down, or do you see it actually accelerating disruption due to kind of more increased need?
I think that in the short term, we will see more and more startups struggle and maybe shut down. This is happening in every crisis, and it will be arrogant to think that the same will not happen in our sector as well. On the other side, I think that when a lot of people losing their job by means of necessity, they will have to do something new. Some of them will initiate their own companies. I think that we just a few years ago experienced a huge blast in the smartphone world when Nokia, maybe the biggest employer in Finland, collapsed, and there was huge amount of talented engineers and technology professionals without work. And I think that today, due to this process, there is much more innovative movement and new startups in Finland and in Scandinavia and the Nordics as a whole. So yes, there will be much more people that lose their job, that will reduce capacity, businesses that struggle. But I think that in the long term of 2 to 3 years from now, we will experience a jump in the number of entrepreneurs that will offer new technologies. Of course, it's come also with bigger competition, but I think that we will see innovative ideas, innovative technologies that we cannot think of yet, that will knock on the doors of our corporate partners, of our customers, sooner than later, yes.
Yeah, no, they say necessity is the mother of invention, right? So No.
Exactly.
No. And I wonder, will this outbreak encourage more adoption of tech kind of sooner than would otherwise have been the case?
I think the question is which tech. I think that the most important factor is that we have to understand that to control the revenues, it's very difficult. There is a set constraints of the global economy, of the numbers of cars that will sold globally, of the numbers of consumer electronics that will be sold globally. So the revenue side will suffer from a constraint. The operational side, the expenses side, is the side that the corporates and the players around the industry and the service provider can manage a lot more flexible. They can reduce workforce. They can put more emphasis on operational efficiency. And I think that the main focus of the biggest player in the industry will be on this side. So every startup, every technology provider out there have to ask himself how I can deliver by my technology uniqueness, by my products, by my sensors, by my robotic application, by my AI software strength, how I can make sure that my partners, my customers can harness it for operational efficiency and less to build the next huge machine or the next huge platform that will change the business in 3 to 5 years. There will be a place for such, but this is more a game of economic growth era like we experienced in the last decade, and not what we will be experiencing in the next couple of years, I assume.
And we might take some questions from the chat. There's a few that have built up. One from Nikhil. Can we expect AI-based transformation of the logistics sector? A simplified system would be a boon for innovators.
So, I think we touch a little bit this point. I just want to make sure that we'll talk about the same question, and I see also the question here in the general chat. When I think about AI, I think about platforms that do part of the repetitive, labor-intensive, paper-intensive, and therefore error-prone processes by artificial intelligence tools. And I think that the answer is yes, not only in the maritime industry, in any industry, because the AI tools is become more and more affordable. And there is more and more general AI platform and general tools that allow the technology and the IT professionals out there to train their resources, their IT systems, with much less resources. And all the cloud platforms and the SaaS application out there help the IT professionals to adopt those platforms without any big investments by consuming it as a service. So the answer is yes, and I think this is a rapid process that we experience in everywhere, in the electric scooters, in the shared mobility that we start to consume transportation as a service when we commute. And as part of the global economy, we experience the same in the maritime sector. Yes.
Great. And then from Dima Andodia, the owner of DTech, he believes a lot of these innovations aren't happening within the next few days. It'll take a couple of years. So he's wondering what facilities or innovations are available right now for small exporters.
For small exporters, okay. This is a great one because when we talk about technologies, even if it's less capital intensive in order to jumpstart these processes. Still, you have to invest some capital, and you have to have the ability to train your employees, to buy new computers, new infrastructure. And when you have a major shift in any industries, the big players have the money to invest, and the SMBs are less have less ability to do so. So what we experience is two processes. One is consolidation between SMBs that will allow them to invest the required capital. And second, as we mentioned, that the necessity is the mother of every invention. Actually, we invest in a platform like this that, for example, a fast application of the Doc portfolio that giving a SaaS platform, white label platform for the SMBs, for the freight forwarders, SMBs, all these mom and pop shops around the world, to jump on a fully digital platform without go to a project of software development with to outsource it to IT providers. So maybe it will be less streamlined from the huge players like Maersk or UPS in their digital platform, but it will look like for the customers, it will be easy to adopt. It will be like the LinkedIn of the freight forwarders that allow every person globally to jump on the platform, like Facebook and Amazon become a platform for private shops and private entrepreneurs to bring their services to the entire world, like Fiverr. So I think it will be more and more easy for the SMBs or also to jump and to use those platforms, the one that will be ready to learn and to change. This will require a lot more ability to change from the SMBs. But generally speaking, I think that they will have the platform to do so if they will be ready to change, yes.
Great. And then switching gears a small bit, but staying on the innovation topic, what's the role of the e-bill of lading in transforming the paper flow in international trade? And what are your perspectives on the DCSA picking this up as their next focus area?
In my humble opinion, I think it's weird that there is still title bill of lading in the industry. I think that is one of the last relics, so to speak, of the past in any landscape that we can think of. If you think about the ownership of your house, of your car, of your driving license, there is no use of the title document that you hand. It's actually written and validate in the database of the country, of the municipality, of the flag state where you have your vessel registered. The fact that there is no global registry for containers, for cargo, who is the owners, and actually the physical holder of the bill of lading and the one who gets the stamps and all these papers is hold the right to release the cargo and take it out of the port. It's something that for me, as someone that's been on the high-tech industry outside of the logistic and maritime industry for a decade, it sounds like something of the second millennium, not of the third millennium, because of all the complexities that we talked before. It's a tough endeavor to overcome, but I think that today, and Wave BL of the Doc portfolio is only one of them. There is many competitors out there, many suitable ones, and hopefully there will be more than one, and more providers of this e-bill of lading for the entire industry. The technology and the platform are already out there. The only questions are who will adopt it faster in order to deliver a better service to the customers and to the freight forwarders and the importer, the exporters out there. And I think that the late adopters will just find themselves out of the business very fast unless they will adopt the e-bill of lading. It's not a matter of choice. It's a matter of how fast you will adopt it. I'm sure that Amazon, as an organization, and Alibaba, when they going deeper and deeper internally into logistics and vertical integration of logistic platform, will not accept faxes and title documents in their operation. Whoever can deliver digital platform will win the business with them. And the one that cannot will find itself obsolete.
So speaking of digital platforms, where do you see the main benefits of digital platforms in the maritime and logistics industries?
Let's talk again about sustainability. First of all, it will reduce huge amount of papers that need to be printed and stamped and go and travel between different places. I think that a few tens of US dollars or euros of every shipment around the world is for paying for the papers and for the shipping of the papers, and for people take their car to go to the custom clearance offices and wait with those papers. Digitalize the entire ecosystem of those papers will end up with a lot more sustainable supply chain. So big part of decarbonized supply chain is not only on the fuel of the vessels and that the port will be electrified. It's also by those small steps in digitalize the entire supply chain.
And then I might leave you with one more because we've taken up a lot of your very valuable time. So kind of an open-ended question. Where do you see the maritime and logistics industries within the next 5 years?
Okay. This is a tough question. I think that generally speaking, in 5 years from now, every new employee that will enter into the industry will demand to work on a digital platform. When we're talking about millennials and Gen Z, and this is the future of workforce, these people are consume music through Spotify and Apple Music. They are not going to the record store. This is how they consume electronics and retail to their houses. When they enter into importer division of a corporate or into a freight forwarder office, they will not accept the idea of holding paper and moving from side to side and do a repetitive work. When they have the digital platform in their hands to use, they will use it. There will be no questions of whether to use it or whether not to use it. And even if they will lose business and will lose customers, old customers because of it, they will say, listen, this is how we know how to work. They never saw a fax machine in their life, so you cannot accept from them to use it.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty bullish on the digitalization process that will rapidly go through the industry. And as I mentioned before, the good news is it will also have a great sustainability impact, a good one, on the entire global supply chain.
Terrific. Maybe you could leave us with some final words just in general about innovation, maybe speak to the doc a little bit more, just to kind of closing statements.
Thank you for that. The closing statement that I want to say, it's for you, for the audience that hear me. Again, thank you for your precious asset, the time you invest in listening. You are more than welcome to approach me. By design, the doc is fully transparent. My LinkedIn profile is open with my personal and business email and phone number. Please approach with any out-of-the-blue idea you have. in order to deliver a better maritime world and maritime landscape. We enjoy the dock to meet more and more like you, and hopefully we will work together with some of you.